Hello, welcome back to my channel and welcome to my mid-year book freakout tag. So we are in the middle of the year, kind of, and I've been seeing everyone post these and I have posted 2 of these before, and I think this year is the year that I have read the most books at this point because I have read 71 books. And yeah, I'm gonna be talking about them in the, I think, 13 questions that this tag has. And the first question is, what was the best book I've read in 2023 so far? And since I can't really make decisions, I'm gonna be telling about 2 different books. And the first one is called Awe, and I read this book for a video that was reading my highest and lowest rated books in my TBR, and this was the highest rated, and I did really love it. And in this book we followed mainly 2 brothers who were called Arama and Tawukiri, and we also followed another POV that at first we don't really know how it is related to those brothers, but basically they have lost their parents sort of recently, and we see them navigating their grief and how they go about it differently. And I really like to follow all of the characters, even though they were really not perfect, but they felt very real and I really connected to them. And this book was very, very sad, but it was also really, really good. And I mean, it was literary fiction, which is very out of my comfort zone, but I really, really liked it. And another book that I really loved is Fires of Vengeance, and this is the second book in the Burning series. And I could have saved this for the next question, which is about the best sequel, but since I read both the first and the second books this year, I'm gonna use it for this answer. And in this series we follow a boy named Tao and his basically path of revenge for someone that destroyed, I mean not someone, some people that destroyed his life. And we see him all the trials that he has to go through to get to that point. And also this is a fantasy series, so there is magic, there are different types of magical powers, and there are dragons. And in this second book, I also really liked the first, but I loved the second one. And in the second one, the focus shifted from only Tao's revenge to something much, much bigger. And yeah, I absolutely love this and cannot wait for more books to come out in this series. The next question, like I said, is the best sequel you have read in 2023 so far, and I am gonna choose Children of Memory. And this is the third and last book in the Children of Time series, which is a science fiction series. And in this case, I read the first 2 books last year, I'm pretty sure. So I only read this one in the series this year, and I mean, it came out this year. And in this series we follow many different species, but we also follow humans, and this is after the Earth basically died and humans are out in space, some of them, very few of them, trying to find basically new homes. And there is also a virus in this world that causes other species to change. It's a very fast evolution. And so we have other species of animals that have completely changed, evolved into something that is able to communicate with humans and that is able to create very different kinds of societies. And they're very, very different from humans and very different among each other. And also in this series, we always have a dual timeline of when the humans are getting to new places and getting to discover what is happening, and also the future. And it's always very intriguing to see how do we get from one point to the other. And I feel this one out of the 3 was the most intriguing of all. And I really, really love this. It's very entertaining, it's very fascinating, and I love this series and I love this book specifically. The third question is a new release that you haven't read yet, but you want to. And again, there are a few, but I'm gonna choose one, and that is Antimatter Blues. And this is the second book in the Mickey 7 series, duology. And I read Mickey 7 last year and I really liked it. And basically we're following Mickey 7, who is the 7th version of Mickey, because Mickey was basically hired to do all the dangerous probably deadly tasks of this crew that is in a exploration mission in space, because this is also sci-fi. He is doing all the dangerous and possibly deadly jobs, and so we are following the 7th version of Mickey because all the other ones have died in several jobs. And at the beginning of the book, we see him in a very almost deadly mission again, and his colleagues actually think that he's dead, so they create Mickey 8. But then we learn that Mickey 7 actually didn't die, and he makes it back to their spaceship, and now it's a problem because there are 2 Mickeys alive, and that should not be possible. So we see them having to navigate that and like not letting people know about it. And it was very interesting, and actually I really loved Mickey 7 and I didn't really like Mickey 8, which is funny because they're supposed to be the same person, but they're really not. And also at the end of the first book, they found something very interesting, and it definitely got me very excited to read the sequel that has already come out, but I haven't read yet, and I don't really know why, but I really want to get to it. Next question is the most anticipated release for the second half of the year. And again, there are a few, but one of them is called Mirrored Heavens. And this is the 3rd book in the Between Earth and Sky series. And I never know how to explain this series because there is so much going on, because there are like different gods that are sort of at war, and they have human vessels, and they're like obviously using them for their own plans and for their own wants. And there are also other different kinds of creatures. There is a mermaid, and there are also assassins, and there is like so much going on, but it is so fun. And the first book, we got to know a lot about the world and like the magic and the gods and all of that, and it was more like action packed. The second one was more political. We got to know more about that side, and also we got to know the characters a little bit more. And so I liked both books a lot, but for different reasons. And the way the second book ended definitely set things up in a very interesting way for the third, and so I am obviously very excited for that. Question number 5 is biggest disappointment, and I'm gonna talk about 3 books pretty briefly. And the first one was They're Watching You, and this was a mystery thriller, and this was actually one of my anticipated releases, so obviously I had high expectations for it, and I really didn't like it. And we were following a character whose name I don't remember at all, but her friend had gone missing in their school, and she's pretty sure that the people responsible for her going missing are the people from the secret society of their school. So she like tries to infiltrate it, and she has to go through a bunch of trials, a bunch of games, like deadly games. And I mean, at first I was having fun, but then it was pretty obvious what was happening, and I didn't think what was happening was actually interesting, and I was honestly like pretty bored, and I didn't like the characters at all, so definitely disappointed with that. And then another disappointment, more recent, was The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King, because I really like the first 2 books in that series. And so, I mean, I was expecting to love that one as well, but I really didn't like it either. And then the latest disappointment, and this one I didn't like hate, but I was expecting to love it because it was so hyped, and that is Fourth Wing, that I read last week. And I just didn't really like it that much. Like, it was not bad, but also I didn't think it was as great as everyone is claiming it to be. And yeah, I was definitely disappointed because I had very high expectations. And then the biggest surprise, I would probably say, was The Serpent and the Wings of Night, because like I said in the previous question, I really like this book, and I honestly was not expecting to. Even though it is also pretty hyped, I was not expecting to actually love it because it's like fantasy romance, and I don't like romance, so I was expecting to not really care. And I mean, I did not care about the romance in that book, but at the same time, like, the rest of the plots was interesting enough to keep me excited, and like the action was really good, and so I actually really like this, which also made me more excited for Fourth Wing, because I was like, okay, I like this fantasy romance, even though I didn't care about the romance. I will probably like that one that is like super hype, but I didn't. So there's that. Next question is favorite new author, and I would probably have to go with this book again. So the author is Evan Winter, because again, I absolutely love this and I can't wait for the next books to come out in the series. Honestly, I don't know when they're gonna come out. When I read this, there was no like release date yet, so that's very sad. But yeah, I mean, I love the main character. I love the way that this author writes the like action and fight scenes, and there are a lot of them. So yeah, definitely a new favorite author. Next is my newest fictional crush, and honestly, I don't have any. I haven't really liked any of the romances that I read. Not that I've read many, but like the ones that I read I didn't like, and like none of them were crush material. And I mean, none of the other characters like outside of romance were really crush material either. So I guess I do not have any new crushes. The next question is newest favorite character. And I mean, I could go again with Tao from this book because I did really love him, even though he was kind of losing it at some points, but I still loved him. But I am gonna say Vin from the Mistborn trilogy, like the first trilogy. And I could get the book, but I forgot to take it out. And it's like so neatly tucked in my shelf that I don't want to mess that up. But I also read those books this year and I absolutely love Vin. She is such an icon. And yeah, definitely one of my new favorite characters, if not my actual new favorite character. Then the 10th question is a book that made you cry. And once again, I don't have an answer for that. I did not have an answer for that last year either. I just don't really cry easily in general, but I definitely don't cry easily with books. But like the closest I got was definitely with Awe. I was very emotional with the end of that book. So if you had to go with something, it's that, but it did not make me cry. Then a book that made you happy. And honestly, I don't really read many happy books. And when it is happy, there is also always something that is sad. So it's always pretty bittersweet. But I guess I would say maybe these two books because they were two prequels. And this was the prequel of the Wheel of Time series, New Spring. And this is the prequel of the Witcher series, Season of Storms. They made me happy because we were following the characters in, I wouldn't say exactly low stakes situations. There were definitely like fights and deadly things happening. But at the same time, it was also them like just vibing together and hanging out and just getting to know them better. And it like felt very nostalgic because I read these after finishing both series. So it just made me like feel warm and fuzzy inside. So yeah, I would say these two. Then the next question is the most beautiful book you've bought this year. And once again, I'm gonna go with two. Can you tell that I cannot make decisions? So the first one is Babel, which is absolutely gorgeous, which I have read and loved. And the other book is, I think like if I had to choose one, this would be the prettiest. And it's A Day of Fallen Night, which is probably like the most beautiful book I own, like I've ever owned. Like it is so pretty. And also read this and also really, really liked it. And the final question is, what book or books do you need to read by the end of the year? And actually, I have like, not books, but series that I want to read. And the first is the Live Ship Traders series. I read the Farseer trilogy last year and I really liked it. And so I want to read this trilogy next. And I mean, they're all there waiting for me. And by the way, these are also gorgeous. And yeah, I definitely want to read these. I am planning on reading them very soon, but also they are so big. And the other two series that I have are like over there and I'm not going to pick them up. And they are the First Law series and the Stormlight Archive series. And I only have the first 3 books in both of those series. But I mean, only those 3 books are a lot of pages. And I mean, I also have a bunch of anticipated releases that I still haven't gotten to. And I obviously want to read those as well. So, I mean, there are a lot of books that I still want to read this year. And yeah, that is it. That is the end of this tag. And that is the end of this video. And so thank you so much for watching. I really hope that you have enjoyed it. And if you did, give it a like and subscribe. And I will talk to you next time. Bye!